Resuming Nerd World Order broadcast. Dynaphones connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, it's all about the...
Booyah! It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds, coming straight out of Krakoa, Alfonso X-Man Flores.
On a serious note, did you know that Anakin Skywalker is really bad at playing the floor as lava?
And to my other right, Dan, you can't stop me from calling you Poppy, the Mandalorian. What's up, Dan?
This is the way.
This is the way. Thanks very much, Dan, for joining this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. Today we are going to be discussing the television show Ahsoka. So, of course, when you speak Ahsoka, when you talk Star Wars, you say Dukes, you say Alfonso, you say Joe. There's only one person you can have on your show when you talk Star Wars, and that is Dan the Man DeLorean Salazar. So let's start it off with, how's it going, Dan?
It's going great. I appreciate you guys having me back.
It's really good to be back, man, or, to have you back on the show. I'm excited about Ahsoka. Apparently, some of us on the Nerd World Order broadcast are not as excited about Ahsoka, but I'm so excited to get into this and to talk about the show today. Let's see here. I'll just start it off. I would say I was first introduced to Ahsoka through Joe. Joe is always like, going Ahsoka, so good, dude. Ahsoka. She's like, she's gonna change your opinion of Star Wars. And so, when I finally saw her in some of the episodes of, let's say, The Mandalorian and also the Book of Boba Fett, I was like, okay, she's pretty cool. So I was excited to see what she would have with her own show. Alfonso, what was your initial exposure to Ahsoka, and were you excited for the show?
My initial exposure to Ahsoka was I jumped in and out of watching Clone Wars, not the movie, but the TV show, the cartoon, the animated series. And, ooh, who's that? Ooh, she's Padawan. Ooh, she's good. Oh, she's fun. She flips. So that was my first impression of her. I loved her. She was great right off the bat. And as far as this show, super excited. I mean, I love Rosario Dawson. She generally doesn't do much wrong. And, Ahsoka, from what I know, it's going to be a lot of fun.
So how about you, Dan? What was your initial introduction, and what was your level of excitement going into the show?
Much like Alfonso, the Clone Wars animated series was where I first came across her, and her character has such a complex backstory with being a Padawan and her experience with the Jedi Council, and then they brought her back for Rebels, and her taking on a Padawan of her own, and then reintroducing her in The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. As soon as obviously they announced that she was going to get a series of her own, I know that built a lot of anticipation for that, and I was really looking forward to this as well.
Joe, tell us about your relationship with Ahsoka.
She's one of my favorite characters that I like. I enjoyed her when I first seen her in Clone Wars. I liked her in Rebels, and I do like her in this show. But I feel like, and we'll dive into it. But I feel like it is an Ahsoka show more than it is a Rebels season 5.
Okay. Well, speaking of Rebels, everyone's mentioned it a little bit here and there. I actually went back, and on Disney Plus they have like the Essential Ahsoka, And so I watched all of those, and it was pretty cool. But I felt like the Rebels stuff they really didn't cover as well. So, Dan, the man, can you bring us up to speed and help us understand how this show ties into Ahsoka, Rebels? That is.
Well, as they haven't done previously, they've really jumped into this as a continuation of the storyline from the series Rebels. With Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, um, Obi-Wan, they've dropped Easter eggs, references, even brought characters back like Cad Bane, but you never really felt like you had to have that familiarity with those characters or those references until now, where they have mostly all the central characters already. Ahsoka, Hera, um, Sabine Wren,
Sabine.
obviously Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to be a central character in this. They're referencing Ezra. They had the setting there, Lothal. The ceremony they had at Lothal, in fact, had the mural of the entire crew of the Ghost. So if you're not already familiar, you're kind of wondering who all these characters are. But through Rebels, they're the crew of this ship, the Ghost, that Hera was the captain of. She had a relationship with the Jedi Kanan throughout, and she ends up having a child with him, who we see in episode 3, I believe. And by the end, which they reference even in the first episode, by the finale with the Battle of Lothal, where the Purgal, aka the Force Whales that Joe had referenced previously, they sucked the Star Destroyer that Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra were on out into hyperspace, and they essentially disappeared.
That pretty much brings us up to speed. And unfortunately, if someone didn't go back and watch Rebels, or if they don't have Dan to let them know what's going on, I have to say, that first episode was kind of like I should know what's going on, but I don't. You're kind of grasping at straws. And I'm going to throw it out there, since you guys have referenced Rebels a few times. I watched the final 4 episodes of Rebels. I watched the essential Ahsoka, including Rebels, and I'm just not impressed. I'm like, okay, so I enjoyed Clone Wars. I was like, oh, this is cool. But like when I watched Rebels, I was just kind of like, I couldn't get into it. And so it's an interesting choice to make Ahsoka a continuation of Rebels. What do you guys think about that choice to make Ahsoka essentially, what are they calling it, season 5 of Rebels?
I think what you might have missed a little bit on that, because I kind of did the same thing. I watched a few episodes here and there, but I did watch the essential stuff. Without seeing Ezra Bridger's journey, without seeing him go from a young child with force sensitivities to becoming a Padawan, to becoming, somebody wielding a lightsaber and using the force, and his slow progression into becoming a Jedi, you don't have that same kind of connection. This story actually really had a lot of character development for Ezra Bridger. And what's funny is it was all centered around him. And now you've got your Ahsoka show, and with me, it's like, Ezra. Oh, that's right. We got to go get Ezra. Let's go. So I'm really enjoying it. I really wish I watched more Rebels episodes, because I did see a lot of progression in those characters. Same with Syndulla, or Hera Syndulla, Sabine Wren. They all developed so much because they were so young, and they grew up, and like you said, Kanan, Ezra's master, he wasn't one of the greatest Jedis. He was just a Jedi who survived Order 66 somehow. He had to go on and continue learning on his own to become a stronger Jedi, but in actuality, he probably became one of the strongest Jedis because when Darth Maul took his eyes, he was able to use the Force to see and still be useful. There's a lot of backstory there, so it's tough if you haven't seen it all. You're not familiar with it. You don't have that connection.
Yeah, I think where you made a mistake is Alan and what they do is they have the essentials. Oh, watch the essentials and it'll catch you up. Nah, not really. If I had an argument with somebody, Alan, and I said like this, hey, let me tell you these points, and those points are why I really dislike this person. You're gonna be like, well, what did it get to that point? Because everyone has a different point of view. What led this person to be this way to me? The essentials that I give you, I'm not giving you the full story. So if I can't give you the full story, how are you going to appreciate what I'm trying to tell you or understand where I'm coming from? And that's where your mistake is, because you didn't like any of the characters. You ain't gonna like the characters from the essentials because you're just watching the essentials. It's like, hey, I'll take a hamburger, but make it plain without any of the extra toppings and then eat it. Well, I know what a hamburger kind of tastes like, but I don't really know what a hamburger tastes like with the ingredients. That's what the essentials are. And that's where I think you made a mistake and why you can't appreciate certain characters in that, because Disney made a mistake of doing that. I feel like you can't really appreciate a certain series that's 4 seasons with the essentials. That's just like we Wikipedia. If you Wikipedia a movie or a TV show, it's not really going to tell you everything that's in with that series. It's going to give you a rough kind of breakdown. And you're like, well, good thing I didn't watch that kind of thing. So I feel what they're making a mistake with this TV show. I did like the show a lot. I think people are not going to do their diligence and watch the essentials just to see what is going on. And even if they do, they're still not going to understand anything. I think they should have just called this Rebel Season 5. I don't think they should have called it Ahsoka, because even though she's in it a lot, it's bringing up characters, to your point, Alan, that nobody's going to know or no one even can care for because they've never watched the Rebels. So someone that just jumps into it and watches it is going to be lost, even if you did watch the essentials, because you didn't watch the characters grow from the beginning. This is why I struggle with this, because it was so good that I thought in my mind until I watched the One Piece live adaptation. And then I watched that, and the character development is so good, you don't have to watch the anime to even know what's going on. That's what's so good about that, the One Piece live action on Netflix. And I feel that's what Ahsoka has not been doing. Someone that doesn't know Ahsoka or Sabrina, Hera, you won't know what's going on. And how do you understand those characters if you've never watched Rebels? And so here we are. Even though I do like the show, those are my issues that I have with the show.
I definitely agree with that, Joe, in that there was so much development throughout the series for each of those characters. They are who they are now in the Ahsoka series because of things that they went through. Hera with her relationship with Kanan and him sacrificing himself for the crew. Ahsoka going through her whole trials with the Jedi and then becoming a master with an apprentice herself. Sabine, being young, her and Ezra being the younger ones of the crew, and then her taking on the role of a Padawan with Ahsoka. So all of them had that development up to now that, someone like Alan, who's not as familiar, is not going to know these things.
Right. And then, another issue is you're trying to create a relationship with Ahsoka and Sabrina, which I don't even think they had that much dialogue in the animated show at all. And you're trying to because you want a Padawan in there, because you feel like you always have to have that in some Star Wars. Is if it's not a Padawan, it's a smuggler. It's like the same kind of concept. What I kind of upset about is there's so much dope characters, and it's such a short series, like Balin. They're on episode 3. That I think they're doing, is it 6 or 8? I can't remember. Are they doing? If they're doing 6 or 8, it's like you have 5 episodes of Balin Scroll, who I think is dope. Where'd he come from? You don't know, right? And then Morgan, the sister witches, it's just like there's so many different characters that you can work on, like who's Shin Hati. Like there's so many things that you could do to introduce those characters, but they're so fixated on Rebels to give us that fans that like the Rebels, to pique our interest. But the one thing that that is kind of cool if they're doing it that way is you don't know what's going on. For the first time ever, you're like, what's going on, dude? Like there's going to be a surprise, but what's the surprise? Nobody knows. It's hard for anybody to figure out. And I feel like with Ahsoka and Boba Fett, they're trying to clean up the last Star Wars, man. Because if you notice at the end of Boba Fett, and then as we go into Ahsoka, they keep putting on how the rebels have let down their guard, became more passive, and the Empire's still there. And so they have to create this whole story leading up to what created the First Order. And I feel that by them doing that and keep throwing that in there, that's what's going to lead to the First Order, just so everything can connect. It's kind of losing me.
Okay. So let's first of all cover this hamburger. So suppose you're a man who likes his his hamburgers with no bun. Is the quality or taste of that hamburger reduced because you don't want that bun? I think not.
I think so, because I feel I can't talk about a hamburger and a lettuce that isn't with a bun that I don't understand, and then try to watch someone else eat it and go, hey man, that looks like it's good. I understand why you do it. No, I don't.
Nobody
with the bun.
Nobody likes
because of the bun.
They deal with it.
Okay. So the quality of the burger is still there. The flavor may be a little bit different. Dude, Joe kept himself on mute because he's going all in on this hamburger analogy.
It's not a hamburger, bro. It's what's it called? What is it called? A lettuce wrap, bro. Like when you go there, you don't say, hey, can I get a burger with this a lettuce wrap? It's called a lettuce wrap, bro. It's not even called a hamburger, bro.
It's called a protein burger.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a hamburger.
It's a protein burger.
Not a hamburger.
It's a burger.
It's not a hamburger, though.
It's a burger composed of the same thing with one thing missing, which is the unnecessary breads. The filler. The bread is just filler, bro.
Yeah, but you don't know what a truly good burger tastes like because you refuse to eat the bun. So if you refuse to eat the bun and only just get the essentials that you need, you never truly understand what a good burger tastes like.
I do enjoy my burgers very much without the buns. I have enough buns in my life. I don't need them in my burgers.
Well, see, you're proving my point because I don't understand where you're coming from with you just telling me. It's the same thing as you do in the essentials, and I understand where Ahsoka is. So thank you very much for proving my argument.
Which is, I enjoyed I enjoyed Clone Wars, but Rebels I didn't. Like, Clone Wars was cool. I enjoyed that. But like Rebels, it was just like, I mean, regardless of if I see 6 seasons or not, if I'm just not jiving with the characters, I'm just not jiving with the characters.
Did you watch episode 1 of Rebels?
I think so.
How far did you go?
Before
you skipped and went to essentials.
I don't do it. I think episode 1 was part of the essentials.
Yeah, and you just skipped to the rest of the episodes.
No,
you like Clone Wars?
I
know, but that's my point. If you would watch it, try watching season 1 and then finishing it, and then come back and tell me what you think.
Come on, dude. You know I'm not going to sit through season anything of anything, bro. Y'all been trying to get me to watch The Witcher for like 2 years. You know I ain't going to watch a season of nothing, bro.
You know what?
You got me there. You said checkmate. Watch a season. You said watch a season. You're done, dude.
You're not.
You got me there, bro. I ain't gonna watch a season of nothing. If I'm not watching it as it happens, it's not gonna happen. I'll watch essentials of anything, okay? Like you Wikipediaing movies, that's how I am about shows.
Well, here's the thing. This is my point is this. You can watch the One Piece live action without having to watch any essentials or the anime or reading the manga, and you can enjoy it. Which I think, like, I'm past, like, hyped up for Ahsoka because that's one of my favorite characters. So me watching it, the first 3 episodes was like, man, this is good. And, like, I'm riding that high train of that, like I said, until I watched One Piece. And then I realized were the flaws in the TV series that I'm talking about right now, obviously.
Okay, so let me ask you to do something for me, compare and contrast. And Alfonso and Dan are just like, "What the hell's going on here?" But okay, this is life with me and Joe. Sorry, Dan. Okay, so is the benefit of watching One Piece, which you can watch all the episodes in one sitting, which sounds like torture to me, but are you able to see the character development in the show because you can watch the progression all the way through instead of having to wait week to week? That's a question for you, Joe.
Yes, but also the chemistry between the characters were so good, the actors, that you believe, one, that they are the characters. Two, the chemistry is so good, you believe that they're actually a family. Ahsoka and Serene, when I'm watching it, I'm not buying that they were Padawan and Jedi, because she's not even a Jedi Master, but that they've trained together. Like, I don't feel like they have that chemistry in the sense of they're that close. And it's tough for me to buy into that, they were close until they got upset and they left each other. So for me, like, I don't feel like you have that in Ahsoka, and I think that's why it's hard for people to grasp it and gravitate to it.
Okay, I have a question there as well, because I get the first episode of Ahsoka and I see there's this whole, you used to be my master, you used to be the Padawan, I used to be your apprentice. But when I watched the Essentials, I never saw that interaction.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They never, and you're trying to sell that to me. And that, for me, again, the reason why they're bringing all the, because, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are going to make a movie that's going to tie everything together and close it down and connect it to First Order. That's what I'm thinking. And the whole journey, like, now that I'm starting to dissect it and stop fanboying and just and start to critique it, it's losing its magic on Ahsoka, because I feel like if you're going to do an Ahsoka series, why not do from the time where she became Falcon? Is it Falcon? I think
Fulcrum.
Fulcrum.
Close enough.
What did she do up to that point? But you didn't do that. You just went. You because I want to say in episode 3, when she left, was it episode 2 or episode 3? Where that, I think it was episode 3, where it picks up at the end of Rebels, where Supreme's standing right there, and Ahsoka comes and picks him up, and then it shows the background of everybody that was on the memorial on the wall. Mm-hmm. That actually is letting you know that's where Rebels ended. So the whole time you're thinking they went together to go find Ursula at the end of Rebels, when actually they haven't done it yet. So this Ahsoka series is them doing it now, if that makes sense. I don't know if the Essentials, if you watch the last episode on your Essential list, I don't know if that's on there.
Actually, it wasn't. But I went back and I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because at the end, like, the whales, and that's another thing. They put the whales in Ahsoka, but if you don't watch the Rebels, you don't know about the whales. Or if you don't read the comics, you don't know or the books, you don't even know, like, why are there whales with Ahsoka smiling? Hey, there's whales. She's smiling because they can go find Ursa. But unless you watch Rebels or read any of the comics, you're not going to know that. But everybody's thinking, it's almost tricking you that they didn't find Ursa, they broke up, and they got mad. But they haven't even went. It's kind of like almost misleading to where, you know what I mean? It's just, for me, it's just like too much like, hey, look over here, look over there. Misdirecting.
Okay, I got a question for you guys. To become a Jedi, you have to have Force sensitivity, right? I mean, that's like the prerequisite. Then you learn the ways of the Jedi. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you got Sabine Wren who once wielded the Darksaber. So does that automatically make her a candidate to be a Jedi? I mean, they're even saying in the show, like, she doesn't have. You know what I want to know? I want to know what her midichlorian count is. She's not a candidate. And I mean, unless she starts moving things with her mind, it's like, come on, why are you training her in the Jedi ways? Just because she once had the Darksaber? What are your thoughts on that, Dan?
I think she's going to come up with something.
Well, I mean, obviously, the robot, he was already commenting on her lack of force ability and really, throwing some shade at her in that regard. So, obviously she's not as force sensitive as you know, most of the other Padawans that he had seen in his time. I mean, he goes all the way back to remembering Balin's skull. So, and he was obviously already a Jedi pre-Order 66. And I think I looked up as far as with the timeline from episode 3 with Order 66 to around the time of The Mandalorian, and we're talking about 10 to 12 years. So, again, where Joe's talking about it picking up right at the end of Rebels, you're still talking about a significant window there. And they're kind of playing it off as to like it's coming directly right after the Battle of Lothal. And that's a little bit of a head scratcher there also. So it's kind of tweaking the timelines a little bit to where even if you are familiar with the Rebels, you're still kind of scratching your head.
Mm-hmm.
But
A quick
as far
question:
as
the Battle of Thal, did that coincide with the downfall of the Emperor? Was that about the same time? Does that happen around the same time?
no, I want to say Rebels that well, if we're talking about the time from A New Hope to the end of Return of the Jedi, I want to say it's about 5 years from what I've looked up. So if we're talking 4 seasons, what's that timeline and how does it all line up? They never really make that clear.
Well, at the end of Rebels, it tells you Hera was a part of that, on Endor, and so that
Mm,
that lets you know right there. It's
okay.
just like Ahsoka's timeline is it keeps you, yeah,
So it is intertwined.
yeah. I mean, I've said this before. This is my world. If how the new galaxy, if Ahsoka, Sareem, and Urza stayed in that part of the galaxy and created a new timeline down over there, there's so many different stories that you can do within that timeline. And so I feel like why keep connecting to this trash newer Star Wars when you don't have to? And so to Alan's point, Kathleen Kennedy's probably saying, no, you got to do it this way. It has to get to there. You know what I mean? And I think like I thought she didn't have her hands in there, but Alan's always saying, oh no, she's in there. She's in there. She's doing her thing. But if you just jump them to that different part of the galaxy, there's so many more different things that you can do within that galaxy. Like you could totally bring, the Mandalorian and his people that they're now there, jump in that galaxy. And it's a whole new timeline, and you can create a whole new Star Wars. Or if you're going to go back to mentioned it before, the temples where you can dictate different timelines. Like you can fix that timeline that way. What if Ahsoka goes back in that time thing and with like a Ursa Brilla? I don't know if they did that on Essentials, Alan, when you're watching your Essentials, aka Burger Wrap and Lettuce, where Ursa Brilla pulled Ahsoka from her timeline where she was going to die from Vader, and it created a new timeline. If Ahsoka, what if she did that and took Luke Skywalker before he was getting ready to make the biggest mistake ever? If she pulls him before he does that, there's no Kylo Ren. So and then you can change the whole timeline then. But the whole Rey becomes the most powerful Jedi without even having to learn it. I mean, give me your gun, unbuckle my thing. Wow, you're that fast. You don't know anything about the Force, and you could just do that all of a sudden, Or Sareem, like she doesn't have no Jedi powers, but yet you're training her to be a Jedi. So it's like, which one you're trying to, what kind of story you're trying to tell here? So it's perplexed for Rebels fans, and I feel as where hardcore Star Wars fans, where you're losing the mystique of how important a Jedi is and how there's so few, and you're making it look like with Rebels coming out, there's Kanan and there's Ursa Biller, and then there's Star Killer that Darth Vader had, who everyone's saying is the guy in the black mask, the Star Killer. But there's so many different stuff that you make in video games and comics to be a Jedi. Like we're led to believe in A New Hope, the Last Jedi is Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. But now you're watching all this stuff, the books, the games, the TV shows, and they're like, no, he wasn't the last one, or he's not the new one. You know what I mean?
Well, they even touch on that with Yoda talking to Luke Skywalker, and saying that, you're the last one.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
And he's supposed to be the powerful one. But yeah, he's like, yo, you're the last one. Or you know what? Yoda always played mind tricks anyways, man. He probably knew and just was tricking him.
Wise old Yoda tells you exactly what you need to know to get to where you need to be.
Yeah. Nowadays, we call that toxic relationship.
One of the concerns that I have, though, is with them centering everything around Grand Admiral Thrawn post Return of the Jedi, is that if they really do flesh this out well and, knock this out of the park, I do have confidence in Dave Filoni that he's going to be able to flesh the characters out enough to where being familiar with the Rebel series is going to feel more like enhancing the experience of Ahsoka rather than being necessary. At this point, you do kind of feel a little bit lost, but I feel like he's done such a good job with the other things that he's going to build these characters up to where those not familiar are going to be more comfortable with it and, connect to these characters. But if he really does Grand Admiral Thrawn well, it's going to make those of us who are familiar with the Heir to the Empire storyline that much more curious as to why they didn't use that story more for the sequel trilogy. They used bits and pieces, but they really could have used that outline of that story and just knocked that out of the park with the sequels.
Dan, let me ask you a question. You watch Ant-Man 3?
Yes.
How'd you like it?
It was all right.
Hey, but you know what, though? They sure the hell did Kane justice and made him really dope. It didn't save the movie.
True. But,
so Filoni could do the same thing with that. I'm a huge fan of the both, but right now, I don't know, man. I don't know. Grand Admiral Thrawn could be dope, but then is he going to be in the movie that they're going to create where everything ties together? Are they going to finish him here now? You know what I mean? It's like Grand Admiral Thrawn is so dope. If he makes them very well, he's going to make the other Star Wars irrelevant, like the 7, 8, 9, because the main villain in that Snoke and then Palpatine, lazy riding dudes, lazy riding. But it's just I don't know, man.
That as a problem that if they make him so good that he makes the sequel trilogies that much more irrelevant, because they could have used him instead of Snoke. Because at the end of the Heir to the Empire's story, we still had the Palpatine clones situation, but they built up to it so much better because there was so much of a disconnect with the sequel trilogy between J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and back to J.J. Abrams, where Rian Johnson took him on this hard left turn that they had to recover it and then kind of rush to the finish line. Whereas with this Heir to the Empire, you had the whole story building up with the Skywalker clan and the Solos and Anakin Solo, going to the dark side, all that was happening. Grand Admiral Thrawn pulling strings, and it was just, a whole buildup that ended, with this awesome, climax.
I kind of like what Joe was saying earlier about the whole nother universe. Yeah, why not? Because all this stuff over here happened, okay, with 7, 8, and 9. It's happening. It happened. Why try to lazy write your way out of it and try to get rid of it or whatever? Why not? If they just hop in those little tubes and whatever, and they head out to the whole new universe. And Grand Admiral Thrawn's over there. He's not just sitting on his thumb. He's amassing an army. He's probably building it up so big, and maybe he has Ezra like captured, or Ezra's like trying to do the same thing. He's off trying to amass an army. So it's like they can go over there and they can have their piece of that galaxy. And it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with anything that's going on over here, because they're so far apart, they'll never run into each other again, unless somebody else brings them together. But yeah, why? I think it's actually a really good escape from what's already happened, what we're all disappointed with.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, come on, Bubba, come on, Mando, we got to go take care of this. And then that explains why we never see Grogu, Din Grogu. This explains why we never seen him again. That explains why we never saw Mando. That explains why, Boba Fett never popped right back up, because they're over there and they're doing their thing over there. It's still the same like world, but completely different universe on the completely other side of this galaxy, or whatever. And they don't have to coincide. Whatever happens over there doesn't have to deal with anything that happens over here. It's just like our world, where if you didn't have boats, what's happening over in our what we call America now and what happens in Britain has nothing to do with one another. You know what I mean? So why not do that? They could just let it happen. Ryan Johnson's universe happened. Boom, it's done. Oh, well, we like it better over here. We're going to stay over here.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at like the new galaxy, if there was always a new galaxy, then how can anyone say that Luke was like the last Jedi? Obi-Wan's the last Jedi, because or like the Order 66 killed all the Jedis in that galaxy, but what about the galaxy? You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like you can start fresh somewhere over there and no one can really say anything because it's a new galaxy, come up with new ideas. And I would be okay with that. That's kind of what I want. This leading up to the First Order taking over, just with Star Wars anyways, for me, is almost feeling like the multi-universe. I'm kind of over it, like with DC and Marvel. I don't want to see another multiverse movie again. Like, I just want something new and something fresh. I think they have Dave Filoni, like, they're so stuck in that Lucas and the way he had it. Just whatever happened to just coming up with something new.
Well, you guys make some great points as far as how big the Star Wars universe actually is and the possibilities for these things to not all have to intersect. And as far as Filoni having to connect everything, it's almost like he's the janitor of the Star Wars world. He's following behind all this stuff that where George Lucas wrote himself into corners, or left these unanswered questions, open-ended things. And Dave Filoni's walking behind him with his cart with the trash can and the spray bottle and the patch kit, and he's just sweeping things up, cleaning things off, patching up holes, and making everything look all pretty in hindsight. But I still think he's doing a good job, and where they touched on it with season 3 of The Mandalorian. And again, in episode 3, where Hera's confronting the senators, is how inadequate the New Republic was, and how they were so shorthanded with resources that they couldn't govern the entire galaxy, and they couldn't address problems that they came up, or they were just in sheer denial about it. And with that short-sightedness, around the Outer Rim, you still had pirates running wild in like places like Navarro, and the First Order building up resources out on Mandalore and essentially rising up unobstructed right beneath their noses. And so you kind of highlight those things leading up to it, and he is connecting those dots while telling his own story, and again, patching everything up and prettying it up. So you look at the whole picture and it doesn't look as bad as it did before.
Well, it's already been established in Mandalorian that the rebels are relaxed and the Empire's still there. You're just wasting more screen time in Ahsoka when you've already made that point in Mandalorian. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's already been done. I don't need a whole segment of Hera arguing with the Senate to reassure you, like, hey, let me keep it in your mind. Hey, the rebels are kind of slacking, Empire's still around doing their thing. Like, I'd rather see a scene with like Morgan. I'd rather see a scene with like Baylan more. If instead of something like I honestly like me as a Star Wars fan. These are the things I like it with Han, with the smuggler and the Jedi in Star Wars. Nothing else. All this stuff in between, I didn't really care too much for, man. And I feel like in this series is like that. Like I don't care about Hera arguing with the Senate. I mean, last time I checked, General Leia was out there doing like in ships and not in, keep staying in a big ship commanding like a fleet. She did it in newer Empire or the newer Star Wars, I mean, but she was always with Han Solo or her own jet doing a thing. Hera can't hop in the back of her own truck, her own ship and be like, all right, if you really disagree with the Senate, what they're doing, you're really going to let your friends fly out there and you're not going to do anything? Now, granted, she might do something later, but old Hera that I know would have hopped in that her old jet, flew down there.
True, but she's also trying to alert them of the threat that Grand Admiral Thrawn is out there, and the people like Morgan Elsbeth,
Dan,
Night Sister,
stop it.
has
Stop
found
it.
him.
Stop it,
and
Dan.
so-
Stop it. Stop it.
So they're using Grand Admiral
You
Thrawn
watch
as the
Rebels. That's
threat,
not
as a
Hera.
thread, though, to tie
That's
it all
not Hera.
together.
If you watch
No,
Rebels,
it's
you know
not.
that's not Hera. Okay, thank you.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to make.
But
That's not Hera. Because
it's a
Hera
plot
would have hopped in her jet and flew down there to go help out her friends.
Right. You're right. But they're using Grand Admiral Thrawn as a plot device to thread together them being in denial about his existence and them finding him to rebuilding the Empire or what's going to become the First Order.
If she doesn't hop on her jet on the next episode and fly down there, she is not the Hera from there. And even like Ahsoka seems kind of like, doesn't feel like it's Ahsoka.
You notice she's not even holding her lightsabers backwards. I'm like, what's up with that?
Good point.
I don't want to jump on Joe's bandwagon or anything, but that is one thing that I noticed watching the show. You know, I was like, I watched the Ahsoka episodes and then I went back and I watched Clone Wars and Rebels, the essentials, if you will. And I was like, these characters don't seem like the same characters. Like the personalities seem a little bit different. So initially, I gave the benefit of the doubt based on progression of time. But as we're having this conversation, I realize that the progression of time is actually minimal and it picks up from the point of Rebels, which, you know, I'm still saying that a protein burger tastes just as good as a hamburger, but Joe has a good point. These characters do seem very different in the way that they're being portrayed on Ahsoka.
Right. And I hate to say it, I keep saying it over and over again, but with One Piece, the live action characters are so much like the anime characters. Like with this one, it's the live version of the anime characters in Rebels, and I don't feel the same. I just don't like, yeah, you kind of look. I mean, don't get me wrong, Rosie Dawson, she's fine. She's hella fine. And she's a fine Ahsoka. But I feel like she's not Ahsoka. She looks good, but she's not Ahsoka. You know what I mean? I feel like if Duke's put on a filter and try to trick me like he's John Cena or something like that because of a filter, I'm like, still that's not John Cena. You know what I mean? I know it's not John Cena. He looks like John Cena, but I can't see him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's him. And that's what I feel like with these characters. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know it sounds like I hate Ahsoka show. I'm really liking it. I just find there's too many things when I watch another show better than this. I guess I'm kind of frustrated at that because One Piece is so much better live
Hey,
than
Joe.
Ahsoka.
Hey, Joe, can you
Yeah.
see me? That's because I'm John Cena, baby.
You know, I got to bring this up really quick. For almost 4 years, I ate nothing but Impossible Burgers and Garden Burgers and Beyond Burgers and Mushroom Burgers. You know what? They weren't hamburgers.
Yeah, bro. Straight up, dude. Instead of buffalo wings, bro, you had crouton wings or whatever the hell that was.
They were cauliflower.
wings.
They were good.
We ate that, bro, and it was not good, dude. But you know what, though? Alfie was like, these are my essentials. And it just didn't hit the same.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw a question out to you guys because I feel like in Filoni we trust. And I recall when Joe was explaining Clone Wars and he was explaining Rebels, and even Bad Batch, he was like, dude, like Dave Filoni, he's architect, he's an architect. He's putting everything together. And right now, for the first time, I'm thinking maybe Dave Filoni's being a little bit too ambitious and he's not going to be able to put this together. What do you guys think? Is he being too ambitious?
I have confidence that it's going to come together. And again, it's going to feel more like it enhances the Ahsoka experience to have watched Rebels and have that familiarity rather than necessary. So I'm being optimistic, and I'm hoping that's the case. But I have confidence in Dave Filoni in that way.
The mistake that I think they made real quick, Alfie. Sorry, I mean hop in like we're double dutching. Is they made a mistake of introducing Grand Moff Thrawn and Ursa Bellinger earlier within the episodes, so everyone knows who they are. If you don't watch Rebels, you know who they are. So I think they missed the mark on that because everybody knows they've already been casted. They're going to show up. But this, let me just show what's going on. The last 2 episodes, kind of over that when you can set something up for the beginning. If you set something up where Grand Moff Thrawn and them are out right now and see what they're dealing with, I think you'd build up more to your point where there's going to be a big payoff. And I think they're going to waste it on the last 2 episodes because every time you condense everything to finish it up in the last 2 episodes, I mean, that's pretty much phase 4 in Marvel.
I'm gonna have to agree with Joe. In Filoni, with Dukes. In Filoni, we trust. I'm good with that.
I'm definitely on the fence on this one because I don't think I've ever. Actually, I guess I do this all the time, where I'll watch something and then I'll be like, "Oh, well, what happened before?" So I guess I do that a lot. But normally, I'll watch a movie and then watch the prequel, but I'm not watching it 5 seasons of a show. 4 seasons of a show. But I feel like if Filoni's coming out of the gate making references to things that the casual doesn't understand, I have some concerns because your job, Dave Filoni, is not to attract the hardcore fans like, Dan and Joe. You want to attract the casual fan like me, who is like, okay, I love Jedis, but I refuse to watch an animated show. So he's making a mistake by alienating the general viewer, and I don't think he can recover from it.
In that regard, it kind of feels like one of those B-side releases from your favorite musician, where the diehard fans are going to be all about it, and the casuals are just going to probably toss it by the wayside. And that's unfortunate because these are great characters. And I'd really like to see them do something great with them. But as Duke's saying, there are some doubts with the way that it's tying in so deep with that you don't really have that connection to start with.
Yeah, because the first 3 episodes, the way it finishes, it begins where Rebels 4, season 4 ended. Right? The next episode, in theory, if that's what you're doing, episode 4 should pick up with Ursa and Thrawn getting teleported to where they're at and what happens from there. You know what I mean? Like it should be an episode with that. I don't think they're going to do that though, but I think that they should do that. But they're so let's surprise people. Let's just wait. I feel like you don't have the time to surprise people because that's where you lose people. Because if for a long time I've been telling Alan, watch Rebels, watch with Ahsoka in it, watch Clone Wars to see Ahsoka in it, and he gets hyped up and then he watches it, and then we come and do a podcast and my man's like, I'm kind of lost. Like it shouldn't be that way, right? He should to your point, the casual fan should come in and pick up and be like, cool, I can watch it. Again, One Piece, you could be a casual fan, you could be a new person, you come in and watch it. That shows the shit. And I feel like Ahsoka is not doing that for me. And I'm kind of disappointed. I wish I didn't watch One Piece because the harsh reality is the critique of Ahsoka in a way where you start to see stuff that you were biased and you don't see. Like with anything in life, if you're biased, you don't see certain things that other ones. Hey, bro, like, hey, it's like your boy's telling you, like, hey, man, I know you're into this girl. She's doing this to you. Or, you could be in a man and your girlfriend's like, hey, oh, your man is this way. And you still don't see it because love is blind. You only the time that you see it is when you've already left this person, you have a new relationship, and then you start to think, yeah, you know what, dude, they were right. This was wrong with this, and what's wrong with that. And I think that's where I'm at with Ahsoka. I mean, it's only episode 3, so I'm hoping the next episode is going to change the way I think. But I can't wait to see how we all 4 of us re-intervene when the season's over and see if our point of views is different. And if Alan actually goes, I know what happened.
No, I am probably still not going to know what happened. It's like when they come up with the Force Whales, right? Like, they make such a big deal about the Force Whales in every live action show. But if you didn't watch Rebels and Clone Wars, that doesn't make any sense. You're like, who cares? I didn't even know the importance of the Force Whales until the last episode when they're like, oh, Force Whales can go into hyperspace. What? How's that a thing? Like, that's what we're doing now, whales? We're just going into hyperspace, wrapping our tentacles around like destroyers and going into hyperspace? Like, that's some lazy writing plot device right there. But I digress. I would say overall, I'm enjoying the show. I'm not going to watch One Piece simply to be that guy. I refuse to watch it. But so far, I'm enjoying the show. I must admit, it's very confusing because I don't have all the details in there. But, I'm enjoying it. Joe said he's going to give it a try. But Dan, what's your thoughts? Are you overall enjoying it?
Oh yeah, I am enjoying it. And again, I'm being optimistic with how it's going to turn out and how it's going to all come together. And who knows, maybe by the end of this, Dave Filoni turns it into Diet Heir to the Empire. And the diehards like me and Joe, who are familiar with that storyline, get that taste and get a little bit of that fan service that Filoni's famous for giving us. But again, even if it falls short of the expectations, as Joe's mentioned before, Star Wars fans are so spoiled that they don't even recognize that from 1983 to 1999, we had to wait 16 years for another movie. And in the past 15 years since they started Clone Wars, we've gotten movie after movie, series after series, so much content that we are able to be so critical about. So, it's that embarrassment of riches, and I'm gonna watch no matter what.
And Alfonso X-Man Flores, are you keeping us with your positive ray of sunshine regarding the show?
I just realized my mute wasn't on. Yeah, hey, no, I'm super stoked about the show. I do love it. I feel bad that there's probably people out there who are not quite getting it because this show didn't take that step that all the Star Wars shows take. Walk you through everything, introduce you to everything. It's kind of like what we've been complaining about with like all the DC movies, and they're going to stop doing it. They're going to stop holding your hand and introducing you to the characters and killing out Bruce Wayne's parents and letting you see the pearls roll down the road. They're going to just hop in and then, you're going to catch up. And that's kind of what they're doing. I think they could do a little better job of it, but they're trying to explain it. It's just not enough. So I just really hope these people are able to stay with it. I think the payoff is going to be big, and I am looking forward to it.
One additional perspective. Joe's over here hyping up Rosario Dawson. Don't sleep on Sabine. I'm just saying that. Don't sleep on Sabine.
Oh yeah, Sabine was fine too, dude. What is that? Oh yeah, Natasha Liu. Natasha skipped to my Lou next to me.
And there's nothing wrong with Cinderella either.
Is that
Speaking of
general?
Cinderella, Hera Cinderella, the actress Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Are you guys aware that that's Mrs. Ewan McGregor now?
Dude,
Yes.
that's Ramona Flowers. Ramona Flowers.
Yeah, apparently her and Ewan McGregor got married last year. Mrs. Obi-Wan. Hera Cinderella.
She's Obi
Oh yeah,
too.
yeah. That's his wife.
Yeah, that's super cool, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder when there's gonna be a scene with Anakin Skywalker again. There's gonna be like a flashback. So I'm wondering which episode that's gonna be on, where he's training her and stuff like that. Probably, I would think they would probably do it like in a flashback to where it'll help her train Sabrine.
Yeah.
It seems like in the end she kind of became. It's almost like, what if Anakin didn't become a Darth Sith, right? And that's what I feel like Ahsoka is. He's kind of calm where Anakin is now, and kind of like arguing with Sabrine, kind of how like she used to do that with Anakin when she was younger. It's kind of like roles reversed. That's the kind of vibe that I got. Like, what if Anakin never went, to the dark side? It's pretty much Ahsoka.
What is it that Anakin used to call her? Scoots? Something like that? Skids?
Snips.
Yeah.
Snips.
Steps, yeah.
But I'm sorry. I just did the essentials and I knew that.
Hey, but you know what? You did finish Clone Wars, so I mean, you did watch Clone Wars. You didn't do essentials of the Clone Wars. You did essentials of the Rebels. So you should know that if you loved Clone Wars better. So you should have that stat.
Yeah, don't be Joe Wicking it.
Now, so now Anakin better say that in this TV series, man. When he's training her, he better say that. If he doesn't say that, Dave Filoni.
I feel like he will, because at the end of the day, I'll just speak for myself and Dan. In Filoni, we trust. I obviously, even though I don't always agree with Joe ever, but I do trust him when it comes to, like, Joe watches some good stuff. I understand that I will watch some garbage. I know that. And I have a short attention span. I know that. But when Dave Filoni caught Joe's interest and he was like, hey, you have to watch this. This is cool. They're doing some stuff. They're filling in gaps. I was like, okay, I'm not going to listen, but I know it's some good stuff. And so I have to say, in Filoni, we trust. And I'm looking forward to it. He's going to do okay.
Yeah. And right now, bro, it's me trusting Alfonso like that cauliflower, buffalo wings, whatever thing was good. And it's garbage right now. So I'm hoping Filoni better be in that kitchen making me some good buffalo wings and not that cauliflower crap.
And this concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nerds redefined.
Oh yeah.